I want to tell you a story about how I transformed the way that I talk to myself during a yoga practice. So in 2019, I had basically stopped practicing yoga for about 3 years. Now, I started practicing yoga in the late 90s and I became a yoga teacher in 2009. But somewhere in the late 2010s, I was dealing with a lot of chronic pain. I was not able to practice yoga the way that I wanted to practice, and so I decided that I wasn't going to practice at all. My pain continued to get worse, and I also started to dealing with some pretty bad depression. Um, at a certain point, I decided that I was ready to give yoga another chance because I knew that it was something that had really helped me with both of these issues in the past. So I went back to the mat. And when I tell you that I struggled, I struggled. I spent so many practices just sobbing on my mat. Like I would get into the practice, maybe do like 5 or 10 minutes, and then just completely fall apart. Was there grief there? Yes, my body had changed a lot and I was faced with it, right? When I wasn't practicing, I didn't have to face the fact that my body was really different. When I was practicing, it was just so obvious, right? I had so much experience with yoga that I really knew what it felt like before compared to now. And it was so different. And I had so many judgments. So in addition to just the grief that I felt, with the pain and the lack of mobility that I was dealing with, I was also treating myself like utter shit. I would say things to myself like, oh my God, you've gained so much weight. This is so embarrassing. Like, how did you let this happen? You used to be so flexible. Like, whose body is this? It was just like I was tearing myself apart, And so a big part of the tears was because of that, was because I was bullying myself. And I realized at a certain point that I really didn't deserve to continue going through this, and I wouldn't be able to continue practicing if I was going to continue to treat myself like that. So thankfully, at that time, I was actually involved with an amazing nonprofit. The lovely people at the Body Positive that I worked at and just learned so much from, that I was learning how to practice self-love. And, not just by saying like, I love myself, but with actual techniques and tools that I learned from them. And, sometimes it just kind of like takes a minute to help you realize when that's necessary, like when you need to use those tools, right? So in hindsight, obviously it seems obvious. But at the time I was like, wait a second, actually, I think this is one of those times when I need to practice self-love, right? So I started to shift the way that I was talking to myself, first by noticing what I was actually saying, and then bringing in some compassion. So instead of saying things like, wow, I can't believe how unflexible you are, I would say, you know what, this sensation that I'm feeling right now, this tightness, is an indicator that the stretch that I'm doing is exactly what my body needs. When I would say things like, oh my God, I can't believe how much weight you've gained, you're so fat, I would say, you know what, this is uncomfortable because it's different. And I know that like if I just kind of take it easy on myself and I don't force myself to sit with these kind of uncomfortable sensations for too long, that over time I will get used to it and I will be okay. So I started to just kind of offer another perspective, right? And this process of being able to be present with the negative thoughts and shift them in a way that was truthful and not just like flowery, light, shallow affirmations, actually really transformed and changed the neural pathways that were there, that were very old, right? These critical neural pathways of responding to certain types of sensations and experiences with judgment. I was changing that. And it was a profound experience, and it made the yoga practice, it turned it from this painful, abusive experience that I was having with myself into one that was actually extremely healing, in more ways than I could have actually imagined. So I wanted to just share that story. This is sort of part of my experience that led me towards creating my online course that's called Homecoming, the 30-day self-love yoga challenge. Self-love is not just, a simple sort of thing that we're supposed to force, right? It is a practice that we can learn over time. And it's a way of engaging with ourselves as somebody who is worthy of love. So if you're interested, let me know. There are 2 cohorts that are currently scheduled. One is happening starting on July 18th, and that is being offered at half off. So this one is around just under $300 for weekly coaching calls, coaching and community calls, a community platform for connection, inspiration, and motivation, and then all of the course content, which includes a daily video, daily worksheets, a weekly yoga practice, a weekly meditation, a weekly breathing practice, and then lots of other little practices that are things that I do and have done over the years to just bolster and strengthen my relationship with myself to one that's full of love and compassion and kindness. So sign up, comment with any questions that you have, and I hope to see you soon.